Welcome to the December edition of the Leadership Series. I'm delighted to have Alison Covington as my guest this month. Alison is not only the CEO and founder of Good360, she is also the winner of this year's Third Sector CEO of the Year Award. Congratulations, Alison, and welcome to the Leadership Series today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So, CEOs lead from the front. What are the most important decisions that you make as a leader of your organisation?
Yes, well, we do lead from the front, but I think it's all about empowering our team. So I'm very much about giving people the autonomy to be able to lead and have the freedom of framework to be able to do what they need to do, and just not having that fear of failure. So, you know, we're a small organisation, but we're very nimble. So it's just empowering people to get on with their job. And yeah, I think that's the most important thing for a CEO to do, is just empower their team and let them get on with their work as well.
Do you think that the last couple of years have this idea of failing or failing fast, there's been a bit more freedom to do that because everything's been so different?
I can't speak for everybody else, but, you know, we've always been that sort of organisation. So I talk about Good360 was always set up for COVID because, you know, we have been that organisation that has run at a pace, and we've always run, you know, organisationally. Our business was in the cloud, you know, we're a small and nimble team. So it was business as usual for us in COVID, whereas everybody else had to learn to operate under that sort of stress and nimbleness, whereas that's how we operated. So we were really set up for what the rest of the world was trying to catch up to do. That was how we always operated.
So was there anything that you had to tweak in your leadership style in response to the last couple of years?
I think it was more just, you know, letting the team know that, you know, I'm standing with them, coming out at the beginning because there was so much uncertainty in the media and in their personal lives. So saying to them, it's okay. What's going on at work is I'm going to make sure that you have a stable work life. I'm going to set up the funding streams and everything's going to be okay at work. We're going to be busier than we've ever been, and we're always a busy organisation. But what you're going to see is a lot of uncertainty out there in the world, but we've got a job to do. So when you're at work, you know, we've got certainty of what we need to do. And I think that was really powerful for people because, you know, there was so much uncertainty in the media, but, you know, when they were at work, they were able to put their head down and know that they were doing a really good thing. And as we all do in the not-for-profit world, doing, you know, a very purposeful thing. So they could switch off from all that uncertainty that was happening out there in the big world on the TV, but they also know that their job was secure and that they were helping so many other not-for-profits and the community. And that was very powerful for our mental health, was to know our job was secure and we were helping other people. And, you know, when the media kept saying that, you know, there was going to be a lot of people being stood down, etc., that was a really powerful thing for our team to know.
So that was your silver lining, because that's the question, you know, that I've been asking, is what have been the silver linings of the different way of doing business? And for you, I'm hearing we were set up to do this, and I offered my staff psychological safety in a way by saying your job is safe. So this is grounding.
And I think that's what, you know, when we reflected back, that was really important to them, was that I came out early with that, whereas there was a lot of uncertainty for people and they felt empowered that they were doing something very, you know, purposeful for, you know, their communities, their charity members that they were working for. And it just gave them certainty of why they were waking up every day and doing something, because we were living in such uncertain times.
And I think, you know, you've nailed it there, Alison, because if I look at the arc of conversation that I've had with CEOs in these conversations and in the roundtables that I host, you know, it's certainly gone, that mental well-being and mental safety as being really important. It's gone from, I have so much leave on my leave balance to actually, can I actually give my staff more leave so that they can look after themselves? There's been a real sort of shift in understanding that staff need something a little bit extra at the moment, or Always. So I don't know if you saw the McKinsey's report, Great Attrition or Great Attraction, talking about employees wanting to be relationally valued and employers responding with more transactional value. So culture is going to be even more important. And Don Price, the futurist from Atlassian, has written about this as well. So as CEO, how do you shape and influence culture?
Yeah, so I can set the framework, and CEOs, I think, have a lot to do with setting the framework. But I think the people are the culture. You put down, what you expect the culture to be, but your team are the culture. There's no point, mandating that this is how we are going to be. It's led from the team. And so, I have a few things that I like to do so that we have what I see is, the framework of the culture. So, even in our contracts, right from day one, I wrote that everybody gets their birthday off so that, because I don't want to come to work on my birthday and I never did as a child. So I said, okay, we'll have birthday days off. So, you get that rest day and do what you want on your birthday. We also close our organisation over Christmas time so that everybody gets a good break, 2 weeks off. So as we work so busily through the year, we know we're going to have this, nice break. And I think if everybody's off at the same time, then your inbox and emails don't fill up. Yep. And so that sets us up to do that. And then, we just have little things that we just do. And so there's this passionate culture that's in the organization. But, so I set up the framework, but then the team are the ones who keep embedding that culture within themselves. And I think, a CEO can't be mandating a culture. It has to be lived and breathed by the individuals who are in that organization.
And it is interesting because I think that the art of that is, you talked about empowering right at the beginning of the conversation. It's empowering your staff to be the culture. And sometimes the iteration of that might be a little bit different to how you've done it, but as long as it's aligned to your values, then so advice to somebody else where maybe they are struggling with culture. When you talk about a framework, what do you mean by that?
So I think you said it in the values. So one of our values is kindness. And so, every interaction that we have has to have the values of kindness. So, if we're setting up business, are we acting in kindness? So, we could be more competitive, but is what we're trying to do still have a framework of kindness around it? And so that then comes back to our culture. Yes, we could be, more competitive in the way we want to do business, but are we interacting with the partner or the person that we're trying to do business with kindness? And so then we just go, well, we could outdo that, but is that the best thing to do? Is it the right thing to do? Is it the kind way to interact with, somebody in our sector or, one of our partners? And then people go, and I go, no, that's just not the kind thing to do. And so then we come back to our culture. So then everybody knows that we will only ever do something that is kind. And then they know that that's the culture of our business. And so that's one of our values.
And Brené Brown writes around kindness as well. Kind is clear, unclear is unkind. So my next perfect segue to my next question, Alison, no business operates in isolation. So apart from kindness, when you are partnering or considering partnering with another personal business, and you do a lot of that in delivering Good360, what are deal breakers for you?
So we're all about collaboration, not replication. So we want to collaborate. So we often go out there and want to collaborate with people. And they find that really unusual because, often people want to be in silos. And we're like, no, we just want to collaborate with you. And so for me, a deal breaker is it the right thing to do? And so that's where this kindness comes back to it. We just want to do the right thing. And so if partners can't see that it's the right thing to do and they don't share those same types of values, and sometimes we'll just walk away from a deal. And, that's probably more so on our partner side of things rather than the not-for-profit side of things. But, if partners just aren't set up to do the right thing, and commercially it's just not that, it doesn't fit with our values or our culture. And we're just like, well, the business is just not
for us.
The right business to have. And you can't take all business. And so that's what we just walk away and just go, sometimes it's just, if it's not the right thing to do, there's no point doing business for this, for more size or more scale if we're not aligned on our values. And that's just the way it is.
We've talked about your employee cohort, key stakeholders, the charity partners and the commercial partners that you have. So as a CEO, one of your main stakeholders is your board. And, your board would have gone from being a foundation board to evolving and as good as your business has grown as well. So as a CEO, how have you found your place on the board?
Yeah, and I suppose as a CEO and also the founder, it's probably a more unusual role than just the CEO. So, I'm always really mindful of, I don't want to be seeming to have founders syndrome because, that's what, everybody will throw that out to you. But also I'm one of these people that is just always trying to stretch our organisation. So that's quite difficult at a board because sometimes people are just like, well, isn't that just enough? And I'm like, well, no, it's not enough because, I want to do $1 billion worth of goods into the community. And if that's enough, what if? So that's quite difficult because generally at board level, the board is the one who's pushing the CEO and the CEO is always complaining, oh, my board's too tough. Whereas, I normally take the opposite role that I'm pushing the business and our role. So it is quite an unusual dynamic, trying to be the one who's scaling the business, not be having founder syndrome and trying to grow a business that needs to be bigger and bigger every year. So it is a very unusual dynamic, but the board is growing and evolving with Good360, and so is our team. Like, we're a different team to who we were a few years ago and to who we are today and who we need to be tomorrow. And that's the same with the board. And we have to keep recognizing that we're not the same people are today that who we need to be tomorrow. And again, it's setting up that culture at board level to recognize that we need different skills and we keep outgrowing our own skills, and we have to keep bringing people into the board who have that mindset of going, how are we going to be that business that actually benefits Australians? And try and I always like to say, take the ego away, because if we don't have those skills, how are we going to grow? We need to bring people who do have those skills. So it's, check the ego out of the room and go, we just need help to be the organisation we need to be.
Good. I look forward to seeing how your board evolves. So, over the last this year, 3 or 4 months, I've hosted 4 roundtables on sustainability, particularly around the pillars of people, planet and performance. And I've really been blown away by the level of interest of NFP CEOs in the space. They were oversubscribed and there was a real appetite for conversation because, interestingly, I think that in some places, the commercial sector is ahead of not-for-profit. And so why do you think that sustainability is now considered business critical and no longer just a nice to have?
I think, as humans, we all care for the planet. And I think every generation is getting more and more mindful because we all want to make sure that we're leaving something for our next generation. So I think, I feel like a lot of not-for-profits do care about sustainability. I think, the difficult thing for not-for-profits is that our financial model makes it harder for us to do all the things that we want to do. And I think, commercially, other businesses are set up. They have a financial model that they can hire the people and do that. And I think their employees and their customers are pressuring them to do that because they are the humans who care about it. And so they're looking at their businesses or the people they purchase from to do that. I think if not-for-profits were set up to be able to be funded to do that, they would jump in 2 seconds and, of course, do as much. So I think, we just have a tougher time being able to be funded to do the things that we care about. And, we're often just pushed into boxes to do the things funders want us to do. But yes, I think there's absolute uprising and many not-for-profits will definitely be jumping on that and be joining forces with corporates.
Yeah, and I agree with you because there was this appetite. And the thing that I found really interesting is that sustainability was, to your point, around financial sustainability, but it was interesting, how the INGOs are looking at their travel footprint, for example. It used to be nothing just to hop on a plane. just simple things like paper and online training. And so it's reframing. It's also recognizing some of your BAU initiatives are actually sustainable. So it's also around language and how you communicate that. So it's been fascinating. And I mean, you're at the key of that, because that's essentially the foundation of your business. So as your business, you've said a couple of times you've been growing and you've got this hairy, audacious goal of $1 billion. So succession planning is key to building a business. And right now in today's market, the demand for talent outstrips supply. So I used to ask, who do you choose to promote in your business? But I'm more interested, I suppose, how do you engage your key talent to be part of your succession planning?
Yeah, so I think, a very wise person once said to me, and I'm going to use, their wiseness to say the same, is that, how do you give away 50% of your job so that you can actually grow your business? And so that's the sort of thing that we look at within our team, to sort of say that, we have some very talented people, but we're so busy growing that, they're never going to help grow the company unless they can give 50% of their job away to somebody else within the organisation.
I've never heard that, Alison. That is great. I love that.
Yeah. And so it's not about, me trying to do everything. It's about me trying to do less. and so that's really what I'm trying to do here. So it's going, well, how do I, give 50% of what I'm doing away so I can actually do 50% of something else that takes the business to somewhere else. And, I have so many fantastic leaders in my organisation, but if they can then give 50% of that to somebody else in their team, they can then go on and scale the business in another way. So it's not about bringing new leaders in, because these guys, they know the business, they have so many fantastic ideas, and then that underpins the other people we have in our business and gets them to develop their skills. And so that creates all this success and planning in our organisation, but also keeps all the brains trust in our organisation and a development of all our team concurrently. They're all growing together.
I think you're on point there, because there's this popular theory that the young generation are all going to have 20 different jobs and they're going to move. And I think actually people want certainty in employment. But what they want is the opportunity to grow. And I think sometimes there's a confusion between both. And I think what you're offering, I love this idea of give away 50% of your job so that you can grow. But if it starts at the top, it just cascades down. And then that also promotes that culture piece that you were talking about as well.
They also get 50% of new jobs. So they're not sort of in your organisation doing the same thing for 20 years. They're moving between different parts of your departments, learning new skills. And so you're keeping them enthusiastic, and they're learning all the time, because, they're moving up the ranks, and then somebody else comes in and they keep moving. So I think it's a really exciting way to keep people engaged. And some people might, be happy doing that, but you're finding the people who are learning and being promoted, and everybody gets a new thing, and I get to do different things, and I get to do
don't you?
And everybody does, it's a stepping stone across the organisation. So,
and I think it's also, I do a lot of career coaching in informal in what I do. So I'm going to keep that, because it's
what part
of your job can you give away? I love that. Thank you. So bring it a little closer to Alison's home. What's your best habit, Alison?
So I have lots of bad habits, so I'm glad you didn't ask me, because then I would have to go, oh. I think one of my best habits is that I love the water. So I'm very fortunate to live very close to the beach. And then just being able to see water gives me calmness. And, there was a lot of crazy in my head, as my team will attest, and I've got 1,000 ideas that I'm trying to implement. But just having the stroll by the beach, to start my day and see that water gives you the opportunity just to get a little bit of clarity, and a bit of time out, because, go all the time, and, managing teams, just, you get into everybody else's day. So just starting the day with, a little bit of peace, seeing the water is just, a little bit of time for yourself. And I think that's just one of my better habits that I put in place, is do that and just calm before I start my crazy day.
That's good. Thank you. So you inspire other people. You know, just Google Alison and there's lovely things written about you. But I'm interested in, where do you draw support and inspiration from for yourself as a leader?
So I actually like audiobooks. So that's one of the things I prior to COVID was doing a lot of driving. I live in Wollongong but travel to Sydney for my work. And I found that audiobooks is just a great source of inspiration. And, you know, there's my playlist or my library is very diverse. But people, you know, once you get into audiobooks, people will recommend so many for you. And it's just finding, you know, what other people do in terms of how they lead teams or how they started businesses, and just listening to, I just like to be the sponge and listen to what everybody else is doing. And it's just really useful time.
Anybody that you would recommend? Because more and more people are commuting these days.
So I tend to listen to a lot of business books of other founders. So, you know, how Nike started their business or how Apple started their business. So I tend to just see how other businesses started, how they scaled, and, you know, what were their pain points. So that's the type of business books that I listen to. But, you know, there's some really crazy in a lot of those founders, and also how they were failing. And they, you know, Nike was a fantastic story of, you know, just really failing for a long time and, you know, almost going under so many times that it just makes you realize that, you know, big brands that you think are very successful struggled for 10 years before they had their successes. And, you know, basically the taxation office were calling in their debts and things like that. So I think that's a great lesson for many businesses and not-for-profits to go that, you know, things that you think are massive successes struggled before they became the popular business that they were.
Good, thank you for that. So you've talked about audiobooks. Are there any, in this world of social media, are there any particular social media channels that you access regularly or that you would recommend?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on LinkedIn quite a bit, and, you know, connecting with lots of people just to see, you know, the articles that they're putting up, because, you know, it's just about being a sponge. You don't know what you don't know. And I love seeing people's articles of their successes, you know, what they're doing in their businesses. You know, I always stumble across an article and think, isn't that fascinating? And congratulations to somebody who's just doing something bold and innovative. And, you know, I just love to hear what people are doing and trying. I think that's, you know, I get inspiration from other people's opportunities that they're just having a go.
So talking about having a go, what's the bravest leadership decision you've had to make?
I think it was leaving my safe corporate career, knowing the paycheck was coming in, and starting Good360, because it was just one of those things that I couldn't unknow. And, you know, it was probably one of those things that, you know, it wasn't the perfect timing in my personal life, but it's just, you know, I just couldn't let it go. And sometimes you hear about something, sometimes you know it, and you just can't unknow something, and you just realize you have to do it. And I felt like it was one of those things in my life that I just had to do for Australians who couldn't do it for themselves, and felt like it was the legacy that I had to do. Felt like it was quite brave. I had young children and, like everybody, mortgages and bills to pay, but I had a very supportive husband who said, well, you know, if you're not going to stop talking about it, why don't you just do something about it?
Yeah, no, that's so true. And so, Alison, it's been delightful. But what, finally, I always like to ask this question, what advice would you give a first-time CEO, or even have given yourself what you know now to when you started?
I think it's just back yourself. There's a lot of people out there who will give you 100 or a million reasons why not. And if you listen to other people, you'll never start anything. And that's, you know, what I find even today. People can give me 1,000 reasons why I shouldn't start a program or why I couldn't do this, but I tend not to listen to anybody. And then, you know, you take it, and, you know, you have to back your own decisions. If you believe strongly enough on something, obviously, you know, you have to look at the data, or, you know, I love the numbers. You know, I'll look at it, and it's calculated risk, but, you know, that's your decision to make. And I just think, back yourself. And I wish more women would back themselves and do that. So I think, you know, I'm so glad, because, you know, if I put down on paper Good360, there, you know, there's 1,000 people who said it, or 1,000,000 people who said it would never work. But here we are today.
Okay. So then I think people don't start because they're afraid of failing. And as you said, you know, the story of Nike and Apple and all those organizations, when things have been difficult and, you know, in the dark of night, you've gone, what's the one bit of advice that you would give when things get tough?
Yeah, and I mean, it has been an absolute roller coaster, and I have rocked in the corner very many nights. But I'm a sort of person who, if I believe in something, I will make it happen. So I think, you know, if you had the vision and you believed in yourself, you know, just go deep and go hard and make it happen, and get the naysayers out of your head. I think, you know, a lot of it's in people's heads, and they will just talk themselves in and out of something. And I think, you know, you have to just get it out of your head, because, you know, that's where it's all happening. That's where the anxiety is, and just focus and, you know, get it down on paper and just believe, you know, what it was that you had the vision on, and just systematically tick it off and make it happen. And, you know, there was many times that, you know, things were tough and not going to happen, but I just break it down into chunks and just follow the vision and see it through.
Choose your thoughts, I think, is what they say. Choose your thoughts, because really, that's the difference. Alison, it's been delightful. Thank you so much for making the time. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you in person somewhere in the next month, which would be great.
That'd be fabulous. And thank you so much. I really appreciate your time as well.
It's my pleasure.